Hello. Now we'll proceed with this general process. In general process, we have calculated the heat as a function of temperature, heat provided to the system as a function of temperature, internal energy change as a function of temperature, which is the general formula, and the work done as a function of temperature. Okay. So now we want to calculate the heat capacity for the general process. Heat capacity. I'm defining it as Cn. So if you know the heat capacity depends upon, we derive the heat capacity from this formula. So heat capacity is defined as dq by dt for that n. General process, I'm representing the general process with the help of n. So whatever is the value of dq by dt, that becomes as a heat capacity. So if you proceed, if you pick this equation, we'll have heat capacity dq by dt will be equals to Cv plus R upon 1 minus n. Or let's write the value of Cv. So Cn will be equals to F by 2 R plus R upon 1 minus n, or you can say F by 2 plus 1 upon 1 minus n times of R. That becomes your heat capacity. Okay. So you see, this heat capacity formula for a general process is defined like that. Now, if you want to calculate the heat capacity for any process, you can directly calculate it by putting the value of n there. Okay. So, as an example, let's try to apply this formula for isobaric process. So, if there is an isobaric process, the equation for process will be P is constant. Okay. So, P is constant, you see. So this formula, if I want to compare this P constant formula with this, I'm not able to compare it. So what we do here, little bit manipulations, well, what we will do, we'll write P v to the power 0 is constant, because you see, v to the power 0 becomes 1. Okay, so now this P v to the power 0 is constant, is an isobaric process. If I compare this with the general process, on comparing with general process, the value of n will come out to be 0. So the moment we get the value of n come out to be 0, now we know how to calculate the heat capacity for isobaric process. So if I want to calculate heat capacity for isobaric process, all I have to do, I have to replace this n by this value. So it will be F by 2 plus 1 upon 1 minus 0 times of R. That becomes F by 2 times of R plus R. F by 2 times of R is Cv plus R, that becomes Cp, which is a Myers relationship. And as you can see, this was the same value when we calculated with for isobaric process separately. So you can see, these formulas are valid for all the process. All the process you can utilize these formulas. There is only one single problem here. That problem is in denominator you are having the 1 minus n. So this formula, it cannot be applied when 1 minus n becomes 0, or you can say n becomes 1. So n is 1, if you see P is equals to constant. So it is 1 for isothermal. So for isothermal process, this general process cannot be applied. There you have to memorize the formulas separately. Okay, so now learn. If you want to, there are only three things the examiner might ask in any thermodynamical question. He might ask the work done, he might ask the change in internal energy, and he might ask the what is the heat given. So if we are having all three formulas for this general process, I'm having this for work done, all I have to do put the value of n. I'm having this for change in internal energy, which is same, actually it does not depend whether you are going for general process or any other process. And I'm having this for dq. And again, one more thing, out of these two, all I have to do, memorize one. Because see, we already know that first law of thermodynamics, addition of these two will give you this one. So either you memorize this one or you memorize this one. And out of these two, you only thing you need is the value of n. So except the isothermal process, whatever process examiner will be giving you, by just comparing that process with the general process, you will get the value of n. And by getting the value of n, you will putting the value either in the WG or in dq. So you will be getting these values directly by just comparing the formulas. Okay, and then we can proceed further. And sometime if the examiner asks you the value of heat capacity for that process, that formula is also there. That formula is also there. Okay, so if you know the formulas for general process, you don't have to memorize any other formula except the isothermal. You just compare it with the general process and just put the values. You'll get the desired results there. Okay, thank you.